What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fantasy Futures. This is a very quick one because we've only got like less than 24 hours until the playoffs. Groups, not the best, I'll be honest with you. All 5 of my players made it to playoffs, but Astralis destroyed VP, which wrecked my team. You can see that minus 16, minus 22. Even Rain got destroyed by Astralis, minus 15. So these 3 results against Astralis wrecked me. I had a lot of questions about Astralis. I still have them, but they're looking pretty decent. So I underestimated them, but I still think was the right thing to do. But yeah, they've surprised me. They surprised my team. Not the best result, but I did well in rolls and boosters, which is good. But yeah, player points, not so great. But still good. We live and we learn. The question we need to answer is who is going to win IEM Chengdu? We look at its single elimination bracket, standard thing. If you pick players from the semis, you'll get 6 points for the round they don't play. However, you obviously miss out on opportunities for points from the quarterfinals. And I think just looking at this bracket, it actually makes the most sense to pick from quarters. I would probably recommend a 2-2-1 draft. I don't see Mal's or Astralis getting to the grand final, but they could, okay? But I do feel, looking at these opening matchups, G2 is very favored versus VP. They always beat VP. I know there's a massive asterisk on that from the elimination stage of the major, but I still think that G2 should be winning that. FaZe should definitely be beating Liquid. I'm not sure about Astralis FaZe rematch. It is in the arena. Remember that, all right? We've got young players in this Astralis team, and we have FaZe who just step up in the arenas. They make it to the grand final of every event. I'm going to stop doubting them. I'm going to stop it because every time I do, they make it to the grand final. So I think FaZe will do that. And again, G2 destroyed Mal's, absolutely destroyed them in the major. So I feel relatively confident we should have G2 and FaZe making it to the grand final. And that is good because that reinforces the way I wanted to draft, which was a quarterfinals draft. So I'm most likely going to be going double G2, double FaZe, and then one of either Astralis or Mal's. I think it's better to go one of Astralis than one of Mal's because, again, I don't think Mal's beat G2. And if we look at the alternatives, say VP do win this, I think VP has a better chance of beating Mal's than Liquid does Astralis. So that's kind of my logic there. I feel that Astralis is more favored in more of their matchups than Mal's. Checks out? I hope so. Let's draft. I realized I didn't say who was actually going to win, but if I was to tier list it, I would go G2, FaZe, Astralis, Mal's, Liquid, VP. And the reason I put G2 above FaZe is because I think they have a higher chance in their matchups of making it to the grand final. So they have a higher percentage chance of just getting there, which means I think that they're more likely to win. If it comes down to a FaZe G2 final, I'm less confident. I think FaZe can win that and probably will, but that's my thinking on that kind of level. And same with Astralis above Mal's. That's the reason. So let's take a look at who we can draft. First up, FaZe. Carrigan. I've been urging people off Carrigan. He's not historically been a good pick. However, I will say, in the last month, he's been actually having more good games than bad games. So more games with a 1.0 rating or above than games where he's like really bad. So I actually think he's now a viable choice. I think especially with FaZe being a team that can go deep and against a team like Liquid, I don't hate Carrigan as a pick here. So I'll say that to begin with. Rain also, yes, had some bad games. For me, especially against Astralis. However, 194 for a big game player in the arena, I think Rain's great value. Rops, cheap still. 208, still viable. I would go Brokey over Rops if you can afford it. Or Frozen, obviously. Frozen is the best choice. If FaZe win, he's going to be the MVP. But yeah, I think there's so much you can do with the FaZe drafts now because these 2 players are cheap. You've got options in 180 and 190. It's so rare to have that with a team. G2 is the same. G2 has Hooksy at 180, who I think is still a good choice because of his role activations. Carrigan is maybe fragging a lot better now, especially in the last month or so, but Hooksy gets good rolls, so it kind of balances out a little bit. Both Hunter and Nex are very cheap. I think the key thing here is that Hunter is 189. He's so cheap. And I would be going him over Carrigan, over Hooksy if you can afford it. Obviously, it's a big price difference between Hooksy, so I understand. And I know Hunter, a lot of people are calling for Hunter's head. With 189, big game player. Maybe he'll big game play here. I think that with G2's teams they have to face, there's a good chance. We saw how much G2 devastated Mal's last time. I don't hate Hunter as a choice. I think if you're looking at the stars of this team, though, m0NESY is going to get the MVP if G2 make it to the grand final. It doesn't matter if they lose, he's going to be the MVP and he's going to post a 1.4 rating. m0NESY is insane. He's going to be the best value pick here. The issue is he's so darn expensive. You know, you kind of have to go like a m0NESY, Hooksy, Karrigan Rain draft, which is okay, but then you're gambling on G2 winning. And if FaZe beat them, is it worth it? Would you have been better off having a Frozen or a Brokey? I'm not sure. However, Nico, quite cheap. And if you go Nico with Hunter, suddenly you've got a cash to get better FaZe players if you're doing that sort of draft that I'm doing. So that's the kind of thinking that I'm going with here. I think that Hunter is maybe a must pick in my eyes this event. And maybe Karrigan is as well. So those are some thoughts. Nico, maybe. He betrayed me last time, but he's been doing okay. Mal's, I think the issue is, again, they start in the semis, so you only get the padding for the first round. I think Shuei is good value because of that, because he's not going to cost you points and he's cheap. But I think Brolin is no longer a good choice. He's not been performing well this groups and he's come down in price accordingly. And I think Azertion is too risky. He has too many games where he gets aggressive and doesn't find the impact. But when he does, it's great. But when he doesn't, it's really bad. So I think Torji and Jibfat are still the two best players to go alongside Shuei. For VP, it's a long shot, but if they do beat G2, I actually don't mind them in the match versus Mals, but I've not been super impressed when I watch this team. So I think, yeah, if you are going to go it, Mir is probably your budget pick, and then you pair him up with, I guess, Split if you think they're making the grand finals. Otherwise, you know, Norb's still a good price, James cheap. Don't touch Fame. Fame betrayed me, and he's been naughty, and I don't want anyone to pick him because he ruined my draft. Astralis, they've seen some price increases. Stan, 212, he's gone up about 10k. Dev's gone up about 5k. And the rest have all seen a little increase. I think the key thing here with Stan, and it's a similar conversation with Mals, remember back to the heroic days. And this player, along with Yavi, when it came to the playoffs, Stan disappeared. And I don't think he's a good choice, despite his fantastic group stage. I think he's too much money for a player that A, disappears in playoffs, and B, won't get you points for the first round. I think if you are going to invest heavily into Astralis, it's got to be Device, who we know will perform in playoffs. And then with probably either Bro or Stare if you can afford him. Obviously, Stare is a better choice than Bro, but I think Bro is still a good player, and I don't think he's someone that's going to cost you significantly. I feel like he was always a good choice on Monty, and that's not going to change on Astralis. Liquid are incredibly risky. If you're going to go Liquid, I guess you're picking Twists. And then whoever you've got the money to afford of the other three cheap players. Yakinda's got good role activation. He was a great choice for me at this price in the groups. I don't think he is in the playoffs because I just can't see Liquid getting to the grand final or even getting past the second hurdle of Astralis. But if you're a believer, go for it with Mimi. So for my draft, as I mentioned, I'm going to go FaZe G2. I have two variations of the same draft that I'm going to show you. The first one would be if I wanted to go m0NESY, and I'm still sort of thinking about doing this. Actually, hold up, before I do that, let me start with the fifth piece, which I think is torn between either Shuei or Bro. The reason for that is you need a cheap player from one of those two teams who's just going to give you those 6 padding points. And then also, hopefully won't cost you too much when it comes to that game because we're banking on that player losing their game they play in the semis. Because of that and because of Shuei's recent performances, I'd opt against him. However, there is that extra 10k you get if you go him. I'm going to play it a bit safer though, and Bro will be my kind of anchor for the team, so to speak. He has good activation and headshot machine, and I think he's not as likely to cost me as much as Shuei, who's an aggressive player. So he's kind of the one that's anchoring down my team. As I mentioned with FaZe, I think Karrigan is the cheap choice to go. To me, unless you're going heavier on FaZe and you're upgrading Karrigan to Rain, he's a good choice. I would go Rain over him if you think FaZe confidently are going to win the grand final, but because of my logic of thinking G2 have a better chance of getting there than winning it, I'm going to put more money into G2. So Karrigan is kind of my baseline. Both my drafts would use these two. If I'm going in on the G2 heavy, crazy draft, it goes Rain, okay? So Rain would be my second piece. I then lean to G2, and I get Hunter, as mentioned, which allows me to get m0NESY. This was the first draft I put together, but I'm leaning away from it. I'm a little bit scared about relying too much on G2 and then having them lose immediately. So I kind of like to hedge my bets by having a strong FaZe and a strong G2 team. So I'm still going to keep these two, but I'm going to upgrade Rain to Brokey, who has been the second best player on this team. I'd like to go Frozen if I could afford it. Unfortunately, I'm 2k shy with this draft, so it's okay because Brokey has still been such a great piece for this team, especially when it comes to playoffs. So I don't mind it at all. And then with the remaining money, again, I go Hunter, and this time I go Nico. So that gives me the exact amount of cash to get both Kovacs. Obviously, you know, if I could, I would upgrade Brokey. I think Hunter is still a better choice than Nexo, even though he's cheaper. And I'm kind of just banking on him stepping up. So this is going to be the draft I'm going to lock in. Still in the Dune theme, whatever. The rolls are pretty good. I'm half a mind to change Brokey for Rain and Nico for Monacy, just because Monacy's been so good. I'm just worried about Rain. Oh, but I'm worried about Nico. It's tough. Let me know what you think. And I am going to create a little league you guys can all join so we can compare how we're all sitting. We'll do like a little community league. You don't need to do anything other than join it. And once you're in it, it'll automatically appear at the bottom. So I'll make that. I'll put a link and I'll pin it below this YouTube video. So join that league so we can kind of compare how we're all going this season. I want to see kind of how my community is doing, you know, against me. If any of you are besting me, and it, you know, means I can check up on your teams and stuff, which is really fun. So make sure you join that. And of course, let me know what you're drafting. Let me know how you went in groups, and good luck.